What up, HyperChange? Another episode of Bros, Brews, and Big Ideas. We're talking about Tesla Optimus versus Figure's humanoid robot. Some of y'all watching, maybe Tesla fans, are like, this is crazy. We're even comparing Figure to that Tesla Optimus bot, and I'm with you. But I want to do this comparison because I think it illustrates the potential of the Tesla bot. The Figure case study is fascinating as hell. And so I want to break this down because Tesla came out of nowhere in 2021 and announced that they're literally building a humanoid robot, which was like a rumor going into AI Day. No one thought it was legit. And then it was like, holy shit, this car, Elon Musk came up with a scheme that's even bigger than the self-driving car. And we've been trying to wrap our heads around that since then. And it's gone ahead of schedule. It was supposed to launch in 2027. Now we're in 2025. Thousands of Tesla bots could be working in the Tesla factory by the end of the year. Tens of thousands next year, potentially even selling to outside customers. So it's ahead of schedule. Now we just got news that this Figure company, which I don't know if it's vaporware or one of the most insane startups of all time, just raised guap at a $40 billion valuation. And we can unpack that because we have a whole story with Figure up from $2 billion 6 months ago. So, Aiden, what's your first take here? How big is the humanoid robot opportunity?
I mean, I think the humanoid robot opportunity has got to be the biggest opportunity in history. I mean, you're taking on human labor, and that's why you're seeing a $40 billion valuation. You're seeing all the hype around kind of Optimus being the entire future of Tesla combined with Cybercab. I think the question is how real is this? When people saw Optimus in 2021, it seemed like a pipe dream. You said it's been accelerated. Now you're seeing all these roles being hired at Tesla Fremont. So it seems like they're starting to do some serious prototyping and kind of developing it on a small scale, which is how these things are typically done at Tesla, right? Where they're developed at Fremont. And then once it's kind of designed and ready and they've tested and designed it for manufacturing, then they get sent down to a gigafactory for kind of scale up. But I think what Tesla has a massive advantage compared to Figure is that they have a factory where they can test the robot themselves and kind of vertically integrate with the robot. But I will say one thing that's maybe beneficial for Figure is that they're just a robot company, where Tesla's doing they're 15 companies in one. So they have focus. And
I want to push back on that because I think that's also, to me, Tesla's advantage, because Tesla is insanely good at manufacturing. They built this chip for inference on the car, which is this ability to make decisions extremely rapidly with a low amount of energy on premise versus ChatGPT where you send it to the cloud. So that is an insane ability, which got them to launching the humanoid robot. Also, I'm pretty sure Figure was founded after Tesla AI Day, so it almost feels like a copy of holy shit, this is a good idea. We're gonna pump out a startup to copy this because Elon just unveiled the greatest product of all time.
Yeah,
and which is hilarious.
Well, you've also made a ton of videos on that point about Optimus basically being an iteration of FSD with the vision technology and the actuators and the battery and all this tech that developed that made sense for them to do the humanoid robot that they've already have the engineering expertise and learned a lot from, that makes it a very natural evolution compared to something like Figure that's going to have to build it from the ground up, that doesn't have a cash cow funding their R&D operations like Tesla has to weather the storm, where Figure is just going to have to continue to raise billions and billions of dollars to scale this up.
Yep, and that's what's so kind of counterintuitive is you look at Tesla and you're oh, now they're doing a robot, when their car is a robot with wheels, and now this is more like a humanoid, and they're wait, the world is designed for humanoids, that's the most efficient kind of size of form factor for this useful robot to automate human labor. And I think the vision that Elon has with the Optimus is bigger than the iPhone. It's a personal computing device that does so much more. Intelligence is on the phone, but when it's in the wild, there's so many more use cases to it. It's a $50,000 product instead of a $1,000 product that every human needs, right? If they can afford it, that's a 50x bigger TAM. It's kind of insane to think about. And then the software ability with an app store on top of it, I truly think this is the holy grail, at least in the near term
Oh,
of like
it's like evolution.
it's almost like evolution.
Yeah, like we're creating like a new species at the end of the day, and like this combined with Grok would be like this is endgame, which is like crazy to talk about.
Yeah.
But like it really is. I mean, you pay $50,000, but now you just basically have like human labor to do your gardening, your cleaning, watch your kids, like go get you groceries, like you name it. Like you spend that $50,000 like once, and you literally have like basically like a person that can do anything. So, but I do think like one thing that's interesting is Figure just announced with this like new Helix software, which is like their ability to use like vision, language from hearing people and stuff like that, and then take action on things and make sense of things that the robot has never seen before, and kind of be like, oh, grab the plastic thing and know to grab, like this controller, even though it might have never seen the controller before. And they're like, look, this is needed for the home. So it's interesting to see Figure already starting to market themselves as like a humanoid robot company for the home, which I see as the hardest end game kind of application, because it's so complex and unique and every space is different, where it's like I kind of see these humanoid robots being in factories for a long time doing kind of simple repetitive tasks, and then maybe you start to see a humanoid robot in a Tesla Semi, doing like taking stuff out of the Semi and dropping stuff off and helping with like logistics, and like there's so much to do there before it ever graduates to doing like gardening and putting away your groceries and things like that. So I don't know, I feel like this is, I mean, I hate to be so like bearish and negative, but Figure's going for like the end game like hype, like this is going to come in your home. But to me that feels like it's like the last step kind of in there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about like how much we want to talk about how big the humanoid opportunity is versus like, is Figure one of the dopest startups we've ever seen, or like pretty much a scam? Like I'm totally up in the air on that. Like they've got this founder Brett Adcock who had one exit and then started this like flying company called Archer, flying car company, which has raised like $1 billion but hasn't built anything. Prototypes are easy, production is hard. You got Elon Musk on the conference call saying they've got to design all these actuators, all these little motors. They can't even buy one that works good enough for a robot. They're building everything in-house. How hard is that? And you're telling me the guy with no manufacturing experience, and he said he's going to build a robot for the home in 2025. Like they're testing it. Like what is the cost of that? What is the supply chain? Like they don't have a business that's profitable. Like it's so, the claims that Figure's making to me seem way too good to be true and are like insane. And you're actually making me an interesting point of a red flag of like Tesla's, like they're carrying the batteries from one part of the factory to another, like these super like kind of basic tasks in the wild where they can monitor them for a long time, start to understand and work with the bot. Like I feel like you really need to do that before putting this like, hundreds of pounds of metal in someone's home, or 100 pounds of metal that is like huge, that'll move and like do stuff. Like if that messes up once or starts to do something weird, like it's going to be a disaster.
Let alone can you like really function and do things that are like actually useful. Like to me, that's just like, it's the complexity is just like so next level.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing complexity. So I wonder like how much, are we like overhyped on how fast this is coming?
It's interesting because there's like two camps about Figure on X that are happening right now, where you're seeing one crowd being like, this is so exciting, the robot revolution's here. Like, don't get me wrong, everyone's very excited about humanoid robots. But then there's another camp of like, and I think a lot of Tesla like enthusiasts are kind of very skeptical of Figure and kind of see it as like, is this another like Trevor Milton? Is it right? Like that's what people are saying.
Yeah.
Is this for real? Like I don't really believe it. Like kind of like a wannabe. And honestly, like I just want to caveat everything that we're saying by like I deeply respect anyone trying anything very hard in this world and trying to make a difference. I think that's important to say because like there's so many people who don't do anything and all they do is complain, and Brett's out there, trying to do something. So I do really respect that. But I do think like this BMW partnership that he has, which is like his first customer, which he's claiming to sell for, like it's mostly just like it's like very much like pilot stage. Like it's not in any BMW factory. It's not doing anything like quote unquote useful yet. It's not like long term. They're just using them as an iterative partner. And then now they're already jumping to the next step of like, we're going to the home. Like it just seems like it's all like hype and like marketing, and not like let's really dial in with BMW and start with like one customer and like figure this out and like get it right, and then maybe do another car company. Like it just seems like what like you're trying to do so much at once.
And the opportunity is so big that I feel like FOMO is just at an all-time, just like if you think the FOMO for like self-driving cars is big, like the FOMO for humanoid robots and being in that company, like we actually looked at Figure at $2 billion in their previous round for our VC fund and passed on it, which I think is like worth, we're saying, so maybe that's why we're salty because we missed it. But we thought it was ridiculous at 2 billion. We thought maybe there's some kind of dub money, corporate people in, not really the smart VCs. I think that's still played out. Figure has done a very interesting strategy of getting a lot of influencers to invest in their rounds. Those influencers are talking about the company because they're invested in it. I think that is a genius move by Figure, but also tread carefully there, right? Because they have people that are in like that's a brilliant strategy, but also like
who's investing? Not like tier one, like not the most respectable VC funds in the world. Not
Yeah.
not like people like Founders Fund or 8VC or Sequoia
Or A16Z.
or A16Z. None of those folks are invested. So I think people like need to take that very seriously. That like the people who are investing are like all these influencers you're mentioning, like Nvidia, like corporate that's kind of just incentivized to just like help the ecosystem.
And also, I'm not even trying to say like one or two influencers I know. Like I'm talking to like a handful of people.
Oh,
like I'm not
totally.
even thinking of one. Like I know a handful of people who've done this with Figure. And so I think it's a super interesting moment of like there's so much sizzle and like I don't know. Now, part of me feels like this is a business that literally only Tesla and Elon Musk can do. Like they have the manufacturing capability. They're designing all these little motors that they figured out how to do on the car. They have the chip. They had to design their own freaking chip to make the car work that's in the robot. Like Figure doesn't talk about any of this. Like, and when you hear Elon talk about it and how hard it is to build out this new structural supply chain for the robot and how much of it is reliant on what Tesla's done, like to assume that you could leapfrog that and not use any of Tesla's supply chain to beat them to market with the product, to me is not clicking. Like I think this is going to be like like we're saying, super hard thing to do. It's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars first for these early bots. The flip side though is that's production. On demand, you got people drooling for this thing. So that's the other thing of some of the homies I've talked to who are invested in Figure. It's like, well, what's the scheme? Why is it valued at so much? What's the hype crazy? It's like, bro, like they're having meetings with like the CEO of like Marriott or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making that up. It was some company like that though, who's like, I will literally buy like 100,000, like as many as you can build. And we're going to put them in like every single one of our locations. Like we're signed up. Like where do I put down money? Like that is what like the demand is for these humanoid robots. Like it is, people are like knocking at the door. And so I think that's part of the reason that investor capital is flowing into this, because the demand is, even though the product doesn't exist and it's so far away, people are already just like begging to get this thing. And there's a few companies. There's Figure, there's Tesla, there's another one from the Netherlands or something called like Clone or something.
Yeah,
like
I think there's the one that Meta just backed too recently with like $350 million. And it's funny because like you're talking about like the demand. It's one of those, like it sounds so cliche, but it's like unlimited TAM. Like how do you value something, when
unlimited TAM.
Yeah, like it truly is. And so you're like, well, if it does work, the upside is so uncapped that you're having investors that are just like, well, it's such an asymmetric bet. Like there's no other market bet like this. And that's what's like, whether it's humanoid robots or AI, these markets are like so big when you're talking about human labor and human intelligence, that it's almost like, well, if I do invest, like, yeah, it might not work, but if it does work, this, like, it's going to change the game. So that's something you're seeing with OpenAI and all these AI companies too.
And it's like people are assigning the probability of success. And it's like, okay, well, even if it's like a 2% chance of success, but it's like a $10 trillion company, like it's worth 200 billion. And so buying at 40 billion is like a steal.
Yep.
So this is like the math that's kind of like rationalizing these valuations, which is insane. But I always kind of think of like bubbles always like predate disruptive technologies.
Yep.
Like bubbles are not often wrong, they're early.
Yep.
Like we talk about the internet bubble. Like the internet did end up being disruptive. Like so many companies have surpassed their peak valuation. Like crypto has gone through bubble cycles that I think have been long-term justified because of the technology. And I think that's a cycle that plays out in financial markets. So I think we're in the early stages of a potential humanoid robot bubble in the market when maybe it'll play out for years. And when these things start to hit the market, hype is even higher.
Yeah.
But at some point, reality will come down. And so I don't know. I think it's fascinating. And the whole thing about Tesla guiding for like a couple thousand robots this year, then 10,000 robots, and like kind of scaling up like faster than we've ever seen.
So it's 10,000 next year is what they're saying, and mostly working within the Tesla factory.
Yeah, like it's like I think they're trying to do at least 1,000 this year, 2025, like doing stuff. They had two in the factory doing stuff already.
Yeah.
Like so that's why maybe like Figure's got a lot of hype and sizzle, and like obviously they're making their own moves, but like Tesla's like doing this very methodically in a way, like I don't know. I feel like thinking through Tesla, like they did this with the Tesla Semi. Like they eat their own dog food and like use it in their own operations to refine it and use it with employees and get out all the kinks. And I see them doing that with Optimus now, which is like a really interesting clue of like them getting this ready for commercialization. Like we're already underway for the like commercialization plan. So, and I've never seen Tesla innovate so quickly on a product line. Like so many things with Tesla are delayed and take too long. Optimus has consistently blown me away with its ability to like be ahead of the timeline. And like on 1010, everyone was talking about, oh, like these Tesla bots are like remotely operated, like they're dancing and they're like serving drinks. But I'm thinking like that, I was like, holy shit. They figured out the remotely operating use case. Like that's the number one use case I need is like, I'm here, but I want to garden my plants. I put a VR headset on and I'm controlling my robot and I can water my plants when I'm gone. Like I can fold my laundry. I can do this. Like that's already a massive use case that they just solved, that they just showed us they could do. And so I don't know. I personally feel like Tesla is gonna run away with that's like my prediction on the humanoid robot. Tesla's going to dominate and run away, but there's going to be a lot of hype.
Yeah,
and like other people trying to capture the hype.
Like to me, I could see like I think this is basically what you were just saying is that Tesla's going to keep this internally for years as they like work through the kinks, and you're going to see it whether it's like in the Tesla Semi or in the factory for at least the next few years as they scale up production and really benefit from it themselves. And then when it's ready for prime time, start shipping to customers and go maybe B2B and then maybe last B2C. I don't know. Where I'm really curious, like at what point does Figure start doing, like I'm curious what this BMW contract is. Maybe it's like a few $1 million. But when are they starting to make like tens of millions, hundreds of millions, like scaling like production of these robots? And like, are they really going to be able to get there? And what's the use case where customers are like, oh yeah, I'm buying a bunch of figures because it's doing X for me. Or, like it's like hard for me to like picture that and like see that now, and maybe they'll get there, but I feel like I don't know. I'm definitely hesitant that they've really dialed in that actual customer application, which I feel like Tesla's keeping it internally to really figure out how to make it useful for them before they start selling it to other people.
And that's sort of something I look for in startups is like, is the product or is the product the equity? And when you are a startup, your equity, you have to sell your equity. You have to, sell stock to raise money to fund your operations. But some companies feel like the whole thing is about selling equity. It's like their product isn't the robot. Like Figure's sold, and it could be any of these humanoid robot companies, except for Tesla, because they're funding it themselves. So that's different. They're not asking you for money to fund Optimus. No, they're funding Optimus. They're putting up the money because they know how good of an idea it is. They're not asking you for money. So that's an interesting component. Like these other companies, it's like they're going to sell tens of billions of stock before they make tens of billions in revenue. Like their product for their first billion is equity, not robots. So I think that's like another interesting thing to consider, but that's the dance. Like you're saying, like you respect these entrepreneurs doing things. I feel that too. Like if you're going to go head on and compete with Tesla at this, and try and tackle this massive opportunity, you're basically signing up to lose money for a decade and raise billions of dollars from the world's deepest pockets, try and hire the smartest people, and like race to getting this thing to market before Elon does, which I feel like would be like a nightmare.
Yeah, well, like from like a VC's perspective, I'm like, are we going head to head against Elon? Like on the robot, I'm just like, you know what? even if you think the humanoid robot is so big, it's just not something that, as an investor, I'd want to go up against Elon against. Like, it just sounds like, so that's maybe why you're seeing a lot of these tier 1 VCs not, participate in this round. But like, it's going to be super interesting to watch this play out. I mean, and the fact that Figure's already saying that they're going to be in the home by end of year in testing.
Here's another thing that just kind of came to me to consider. I saw a really good tweet that was like, people would want it like Dobby. Like I'd want my robot like Dobby. Like, I can like squish him if he's acting up or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, shout out to Dobby the house elf. You know what I'm saying? But that's another interesting thing about Figure is it's such a clone of what Tesla's doing versus like a unique idea that...
I mean, I feel like the humanoid robot's a big enough idea. It's like saying like a car, kind of like...
Kind of, but it feels like if you're gonna make a robot, like, to me, what would excite, like, I think Tesla's gonna crush it with Optimus, and I think probably that's the biggest use case, the humanoid one. But I feel like if I was gonna bet on another robot company, it wouldn't look exactly like Optimus. Like we're saying, you wouldn't want to compete with Elon. And my theory is like, there's gonna be a proliferation of different types and sizes and use cases of robots.
Yep.
Like there's like something like the Roomba getting way better is like
totally
very.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see
but
like Optimus being the robot to also interface with other robots. Like, you know what I mean?
It's like telling all the robots what to do.
Kinda, and because it's like then the human can be the interface between like a lot of different things. Like if you're like think about like construction equipment or something like that, you could have all these like robots doing these crazy like laying cement that has like very different form factor, or like digging up a hole or all these different things. But it's like Optimus that's like doing like the mining or like the cleaning up of stuff that's helping out with it, that's aiding the other robot and like interfacing with it and getting data from it. And then the human can come in and kind of then like oversee things on the highest level. But it's kind of like there's like almost like a hierarchy of like, industrial robots, humanoid robots, and then like humans.
Interesting. And I'm curious, like where does this all go with the like, Elon talks about humans never doing work again, like this kind of like utopia thing. But like, I don't know. Part of me is like, I don't see it, kind of like, I guess I'm a cynic. I don't see it going that way. Like, I feel like people, technology is like the iPhone and the internet should have been something that like in theory maybe democratized wealth. Like, oh, like everyone has access to the internet, everyone has access to knowledge, like this amazing like rise up of everyone, when in reality it's like you have people who seize the internet as this opportunity to create value, and that's not everyone equally distributed. It's actually very few people, and those people are generating massive wealth off the internet in extreme power in a time that we've never seen and can almost not fathom how much power people are accumulating and wealth with so quickly. And I think the more technology gets powerful, the more that trend continues. And like until we, like I really think we're gonna go. Star Wars is a preview of our future. Like C-3PO is Optimus, and it's like we're gonna be all having our C-3POs, and the people like that are generating all this wealth are not going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm done with my wealth, I'm going to have like a little farm and live with chickens. They're going to be like, no, I want like a gazillion robots, and like we're all going to this new planet and we're building this, and I'm going to build blah, blah, blah. Like it'll just kind of uncap the potential for what humans can do. And I don't see them sitting back. I see them like leaning into that potential and power and like leveraging it for whatever they want. And so in many ways, like, that raises a whole host of ethical and moral and like crazy sci-fi questions. But that's something that, I feel like it's like, okay, like all these Elon haters and all this stuff and all these maybe Luddites, so to speak. There's a big Luddite movement, I would say. People don't like the self-driving car. People don't like the robots in the home. It's too scary.
Yeah.
Well, the people that embrace them are going to be running circles around you if you don't.
I mean, imagine not having an iPhone today, or like that would be crazy. Like no,
no smartphone is. I don't know a single person without a smartphone.
So eventually, it's going to be the same thing with cybercabs or humanoid robots interacting with them. Like you just like can't not use them.
Well, you're going to go to a hotel at midnight, and it's going to be a robot.
Exactly.
It's not going to be.
But I think it's going to be like
won't be a cranky human, which might be nice.
Like I agree with you. It's going to extend like ambition and what we're able to accomplish, and it's going to be a massive enabler for the most ambitious and the most productive. But then it's also going to be one of those things like all technology does, which it makes our lives better. We're not hunting for food like we used to. You know, like we can work remotely because of the internet, all these things that make our lives easier. Like it's going to do that on like a scale like that's unprecedented. It's going to give a lot of abundance and basically like what people talk about a lot with this, which is like, oh, you're going to be able to do creative work and be happy and do what fulfills you. I think a lot of people are just going to be like content in this like area of like almost like complacency and just like abundance. And it's going to be like a really like abundant utopian world, hopefully, an ideal scenario. And then you're going to see like the outliers who then use the technology to continue to build things in the full stack, like at scale, then, like for everyone else. But I do
like overall, it will be a good raising up of people.
But I do think there's two existential things, which is like one, I do think it is very real that there could be basically this anti like techno movement that becomes almost like a quasi like religion / political thing once like the world starts to really shift. And that's going to happen next few years when, you know, you replace all these Uber drivers, these truck drivers, all these jobs, you know, and then how does the world shift around that? I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing like, you know, people trying to attack factories or like, you know, like an anarchist movement against this technology that's going to be a natural kind of civilizational feedback to what's happening. So I think that's something to pay attention to. And then the other thing is the dark horse of, you know, like creating basically life and a new species of intelligence and how we kind of interact with that and how that like could that take over humanity like Elon's biggest fear and how we create safe intelligence.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about how smart these things are going to be.
Yeah,
we're just like, oh yeah, we'll tell them what to do and they'll do it. Like, haven't even got to robot revolution.
Yeah, so it's like when does consciousness emerge? When they can like see, hear, do everything that we can do. Like, at what point do they just kind of like wake up and like become conscious? If they can do everything that we can do.
I don't know.
I don't know. These are like I didn't mean to get so heady and like
but I think it's go. I mean, I think it's like so much of conscious like what humans do is because they're human and they're like a living thing that's gonna die, and like I don't think robots are gonna have that.
Yeah.
So I feel like they won't. I don't know. They're gonna be.
You can't feel alive.
I don't know if it'll feel. Yeah. If you're not gonna die, are you alive?
Yeah.
Like, would you ever feel alive? Like, so. That's crazy. And okay, the other two things you mentioned, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to dumb down the conversation after that dope, vision you painted. But like Uber driver, everyone always talks about like, and then where the Uber drivers gonna go? Uber drivers didn't exist 5 years ago. Like Uber was taking jobs from other people and they were evil. And now, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm not really buying that. Like everyone was a whatever, like Freemason, and then we disrupted that. Like, totally. I don't know, or like, you know, like. And then to end it, it's like, okay, part of me feels guilty for even making a Tesla Optimus first figure robot thing because I have so much respect for Tesla's engineering and bringing all this stuff to market. Figure has done nothing but filchy videos yet. And maybe they're great. Like maybe Figure is disruptive. But the reason why I think it's a powerful analogy is because they're worth $40 billion. Like I'm just a student of the market saying, okay, $2 billion I thought was ridiculous for Figure, but they made moves, they got more sizzle, they're ramping to commercialization. Now they're raising at $40 billion and they're getting the money and they're building their factory. So what does that say for Tesla, who we think is ahead? What do you value their Optimus business at? You know what I'm saying? If Figure's worth $40 billion, but Tesla's a way more powerful humanoid robot, is Optimus's business not already worth $100 billion, $200 billion? And I think the stock market is already pricing a lot of that into Tesla's valuation. But that's what's so fascinating to me is Tesla down here at $900 billion, Figure at $40 billion is not immaterial. So the market is saying,
like you could almost call it 1/18 of Tesla's market cap. Like
which is ridiculous, which is insane. So like framing it like that almost kind of reaffirms the bullishness of Tesla of like, wow, like people are so hungry to get a piece of this that they're funding the number 2 and they're funding it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't put too high of a mark on this $40 billion valuation because it's just like, I don't really trust the VCs who are making the mark. The round hasn't been like officially announced, but regardless, it is being floated around. So it is possible that it is closing at that price.
Yeah, and it's all rumors, right?
Yeah, but it is possible. And if it does happen, like it could be announced soon. So yeah, I don't know what that puts like, but like I would put Optimus at like, you know, probably somewhere between like if it was an independent company and Elon's raising around it, it would probably raise around like 25 to 50 billion, like 25 billion. I don't know.
At least.
Right? Like look at what's XAI already at. like
50 or
yeah,
something.
something like out of nowhere. It's like the company's 3 years old. So like, what would the, you know, physical form factor be for that? Probably around 50 to 70 B as well. So.
Yeah, and it's one thing to think about the financials, and like we were saying before, it's another to think about like the effects this is truly going to have, like the evolution of our society that's about to happen with the humanoid robots. Like in many ways, it almost feels like we're in such a quaint, chill, beautiful time now, or just like a calm before. Just maybe it'll be dope in the future, but like just to appreciate the kind of like archaic quaintness we live with today. Like we rent a car, like I'm about to rent a car in 2 days and I'm driving. Like I'm gonna try and use FSD, but it costs so much on freaking Turo to upgrade to FSD, I might even have to drive the Tesla myself. Like we're out here looking like barbarians compared to what we're gonna do in 5 years ago. Like I gotta, like, I don't know. It's just, you know.
Yeah,
like,
I'm just starting to think about like all the crazy things that like are, like how the world could change. Like, I mean, I remember watching the movie RoboCop growing up about a humanoid robot that was a cop. I'm not sure if you saw that, but it's like, it was like a kind of sci-fi, you know, fun movie. But it was like, imagine if robots were the police force, you know, and then it's like, what happens when that goes wrong? And then like, or like robots become like serving in like the military. You don't have to send people in the war zones, but then like, what does that cause? Or you have robots who are, you know, watching your kid. Like, it's just like crazy because we like, it's so early, and I think this is going to take a long time to play out. And it seems like a lot's happening in the humanoid robot space, especially when you see like all the hype around Figure, which is really good at marketing it. It's going to take a while to play out, but I do think, you know, 2030s are going to be wild.
yeah. And it's like the best sci-fi movie isn't on Netflix. We're living it. Like,
Yeah.
it's our lifetime.
It's
like
happening.
the next 50 years
These are
is gonna be.
And this is the early days of it all happening.
You're not gonna be able to write the script. Like, it's gonna be crazy. So anyway, let us know what y'all think in the comments below. Hopefully we gave y'all something to scheme on. Very pumped to see how it all turns out.